is the nail Conan painting.
Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. Hello again, welcome back. So it's still 2026. Actually, it's deep in 2026 and I still haven't posted a proper video. So here it is. So this video is a story of a commission. I was asked to paint this painting for somebody through this website that I use as a kind of artist brokering thing, a kind of Uber for artists, call it that. So somebody relatively local wanted this done. So I'm going to go through that painting and tell the story of how I painted it. I've also got some sort of general studio updates and some like two pieces of awful news. One unforced error on my part and another one that's got me raging. Anyway, here's the story of this this painting, this commission. I haven't really worked out a good way of transitioning between this microphone, which is supposed to be a clip thing, and the other one. So it's just going to be a bit of a jarring edit. But I suppose you just have to live with it. I'll just try not to do it mid-sentence because that would be ridiculous. Or actually maybe not. Maybe it would be a good strategy for hiding it. Just as I'm getting set up here, I might just tell you what those bits of bad news were. So the first one, the unforced error, I'm telling as a cautionary tale about deadlines. I used to be like you, probably, and I used to leave deadlines until the last minute. And I still do. I don't even mean that I leave all the work to the last minute. I just leave the deadline to the last minute. I might have something finished, but I'll never submit it until, it's the day before or the day of. For some reason, I think it's an unconscious idea that I'll just leave a little bit of extra space for a good idea. But now my life is full of many more responsibilities. I'm not in control of all of my free time. Sometimes something comes up and that's it, it's gone. I just have to wait a few days. Anyway, that happened and I didn't even notice, and so I missed a big deadline. This was for the Scottish Portrait Awards, which I enter most years and usually do get something in actually. Anyway, this year's it's a big new venue, fancy new judges. It's, a much higher profile thing. And on top of that, it's once every 2 years now. Anyway, so I missed the deadline, so I feel absolutely gutted, really annoyed at myself. Now for that other piece of bad news. So the other thing that happened, and this is not my fault. I'm gonna die on the hill that this is not my fault. But I was part of a group show in Paris this month. Not only that, it was a group show with one of my painting heroes, Mark Tennant. So I was pretty excited about this. I had all my stuff done. I didn't leave it at the last minute. Sent everything off, pretty sure did the forms correctly. But the paintings aren't there. The paintings never made it to the show. The show is now complete and the paintings are not there. I have to say it was very painful watching the videos of the opening. Although I was very happy for all my friends having their paintings in the show, having a good time, people buying the paintings. It looked fantastic. But my painting was sitting in French customs. And it's still sitting in the French customs. It's still there. So, I don't know, I'm getting a bit anxious it's never going to leave. I feel like I'm just being punished for my government's stupid decision. Anyway, after that happened, I tilted for about a week. I didn't do anything productive in painting. I was really annoyed. But, I think the lesson, I guess, you just got to pick yourself up and forget about it. Move on to the next thing. There'll always be a next thing. If I just mope the whole time, all I'll do is I'll just miss the next deadline and mess up the next customs form. So so let's just press on. Let's just press on. So took such a long time telling those stories that I didn't talk about the painting at all. But at this point, I've already done my drawing and my main block in. I had planned this painting out quite well in advance. See, I like to do that with commissions because I don't want any too big surprises, or I don't want to be a long way down the road only to have someone say it's really far away from their expectations. But at the same time, obviously, spontaneity is good. We want things to be spontaneous and fresh on the canvas. Although I admit this is maybe not the best example of this type of painting. I tried to make little sketches to be kind of signed off before the final thing is done. And that way, at least the composition, the main colours, the key themes, any particulars that the client wants, all that stuff can be caught. So here was the little sketch that I did that we agreed in advance. And at this stage now, I'm just kind of pushing away from that muddiness that was there initially, trying to bring that kind of fresh, nice sense of the face and defining the features a bit more. The client wanted this to be a fairly traditional painting, and it's possible that I slightly overworked it in trying to achieve that. And I guess that gets to the heart of what I'm talking about. The problem with commissions and pre-planning paintings, at least for me, is that I think my best paintings are fairly spontaneous. I sort of don't really know what it's going to be like when I begin the painting. So in that sense, it's more like discovering the painting. Now, there's obviously something in my psychology that means that when I pre-plan things and I set expectations, as in with a commission, I struggle to find that balance. And so I'm still trying to find techniques to work with it. Although in this case, I think the client did want it to be a little tighter. That being said, there are times watching this video back that I think that it looked slightly better at a previous stage. Possibly. Knowing when it's right remains one of the most difficult things for me in painting. So this red, this red, that's not cadmium red. This is my replacement for cadmium red. Sennelier red. I had read somewhere, like an interview or something with Nick Alm. I'm not sure how to say it. And he was talking about how he used Sennelier red instead of cadmium red. So, being keen to remove cadmium red, I made the switch. And this painting was a good one for really showing that off. Basically the idea of the composition is that, you have the three little islands of red. One big island of the cape. Another island of the headband. And then some little a little archipelago of the lip and some blushy bits in the face. Maybe that's a bit of a strange way of wording it, but that's what I was thinking about when I was doing it. And so it was great to really like push that pigment and use some of it straight out the tube. It's a funny one though. I like it a lot, but it dries very, very, very quickly. As in, during the session, it's really dried up. It's really gummy. So not only am I wasting huge amounts of it, I'm also probably not using it properly. I think it has to be really fresh, otherwise that kind of gumminess affects the painting. Or at least that's how it felt. I've got much more paint than I could ever use though, and not enough the ones that I really do use. The stuff that I don't touch is pretty ridiculous. I think that's a pretty common thing on painters. We desire the paint more than we actually want to use it. I think that's pretty true of all forms of desire. It's more about the chase and the desiring than it is the getting. That's the psychology that pretty much underpins the whole system we live in. That's not always true though. Sometimes we get things out of utility, and sometimes it's a wonderful mixture of the two. At this point it kind of feels like I'm closing in on the end. I'm just making little micro transitions between the values and the temperature and colour shifts. Some small bits of blending. I don't really do glazing, but I sort of do a sort of glazing-like thing where I just use it to soften some harsher edges without sort of blending it. It works well when it works. After that, all that was left was to finish up this cape. The cape is a big part of the painting, as was the necklace and the headband, which is why I sort of linked them together as those islands earlier. The audio of this bit didn't record, but I was just talking about how I wanted to just push the sense of depth that it was possibly a bit flat. So all that meant was just putting in a few more bit of highlights to pull some parts forward, and maybe a little bit of darker tones just to push some things back. Wait. Pretty simple, really. So then I'm just about finishing it up. So that's the commission, that's the painting. I was quite pleased with it, I was happy. Something interesting happened after the fact. So the client got in touch saying she loved it, thank God, but that she thought it was quite a bit dark. And it's surprising to me because it looked fine to me. However, it is a thing with oil paintings that, you know, they are sort of made to be well lit. And if it is a painting that's a bit dark, it just kind of like, you do need to shine a light on it, or put it somewhere where there's plenty of natural light. I mean, you kind of know this yourself. Like, I don't know if you've ever been in one of those, you know, basilicas in Rome, and they'll have like the Caravaggio or something there, and you have to put a euro in to turn the light on. And it's true, with the light off, even with all the ambient light of the church, the room, you can't see it. Anyway, so she moved it to a new place and liked it much better. But it is worth noting, maybe just a little public service announcement, that if you have an oil painting that looks too dark, maybe you just need to like angle a light towards it. You know, this is the trick that museums use. They'll use like cropped lights that very specifically light up the painting so it kind of glows. So yeah, it's harder to do that in a domestic environment. Anyway, maybe I should sell paintings with little lights attached. Could do like blue neon. Alright, anyway, that's it. Thanks for watching again, and I'll see you next time. What are you waiting for?